Hello and welcome to the in-depth series of Drishti IAS. So, do you know what is the current or the note to be new domicile policy of Jharkhand? If you are not aware of it, let us enlighten you with certain very important facts of it. Let us move ahead with the various points that we are going to discuss from Jharkhand about the bill. What is the issue with putting it in the 9th schedule? Cutoff date is 1932 for inciting a person as a local resident. Then what will be the benefits? Sons of the soil theory is important over here, and the positive and negative impacts. So GS mains paper 2, because it deals with polity, it's important, and from the perspective of prelims, understand any fact is important and every fact is important. So Jharkhand is also known as the land of the forest, and it was created from carving out a space, a region from South Bihar, and it was created, and then we have many states having a boundary with the state of Jharkhand. West Bengal is there, Bihar is there, Uttar Pradesh is there, Chhattisgarh and Odisha. So number of states, remember that. It was carved out of Bihar on 15th November 2000, and 15th November by the commemoration of last year in 2021, it was suggested now this day will be celebrated as Janjatiya Gaurav Divas because it is also the birthday of Birsa Munda. And 15th November is the foundation day of Jharkhand. It's the 15th largest state by area and 14th largest by population. Hindi is the official language, Ranchi is the capital, and Dumka is the sub-capital. Remember that as well. With respect to population, because local population, local domicile policy will be understood over here. So there are 12.08% of scheduled castes and 26.21 scheduled tribes according to the last census. Moving ahead, let us talk about the background. The name of this bill is Jharkhand Definition of Local Persons and for extending the consequential social, culture and other benefits to local persons bill of 2022. It has gotten the cabinet's nod. Now it will be presented to the assembly. When it will get passed over there, it will go to the center along with a note that please put this bill in the 9th schedule of the Constitution. 9th schedule of the Constitution. Remember, the schedule of the Constitution contains a list of central and state laws that cannot be challenged in the court. So it bars judicial review. It was enacted by the Constitution First Amendment Act of 1951 to abolish zamindari and bring agrarian reforms. The articles we are going to be concerned with over here are Article 31A and 31B. Article 31A extends protection to classes of laws, while Article 31B shields specific enactments, and it is operational from a back date. That is why it is known as retrospective operational article. And one thing that we have to understand over here, because it was created in 1951, right? In 1973 came the Keshavananda Bharati case, in which the judiciary said that the Supreme Court established the basic structure doctrine. Now it is said that it does not mean that we are not going to take into consideration the 9th Schedule Acts, because if they are going to violate the basic structure of the Constitution or they are going to infringe upon the basic nature of the fundamental rights, we can do so. So moving ahead, let us look at the background of it. A similar policy was touted back in 2002, but it was struck down by the Jharkhand High Court. The cabinet note right now, this current act has gone up with the note that please include this in the Schedule 9 of the Constitution, so that now it cannot be challenged in the judiciary sphere. So, local resident policy of 2002, it was challenged before the Jharkhand High Court because there was an irregularity in the definition of local person, because it is going to benefit the local person. So, how local person should be defined, that was not agreed to by the court. Now, the court said that we have to decide afresh and redefine and prescribe the guidelines for determination of local person, because if we do not do that, maybe very genuine local persons will be out of the benefit sphere. So that was there. Moving ahead, then comes the 2016 executive order. It redefined locals through an executive order. So remember that it was an executive order, not any sort of legislation. The cutoff year back then was 1985. If you were there before 1985, then you can be a citizen of Jharkhand, local resident of Jharkhand. Then recall the local persons criteria as defined in the 2016. There were a lot of protests and calls that we should not put the cutoff date as 1985. Many people said that from the intelligentsia and other political parties that 1932 Khatya should be the basic year as a cutoff for defining any local resident. But it is not the only one. Okay, not the only one, because some people might not have the identity to ensure that they were there before 1932. So remember that. Now, according to the bill, a local will be a person whose name or his ancestor's name is recorded in the survey or khatya of 1932 or before. If the person is landless, now the landless people might not have such identity, so they shall be identified by the Gram Sabha. Because this was also very controversial, that if you are going to provide local residentship to people only on the basis of land records, what about those who are actual residents but do not have that identity? So Gram Sabha will identify them, basing them on the kind of culture, local custom and tradition they practice. Again, this is very subjective, but still it can happen. Moving ahead, 1932, why was it chosen as the cutoff date? Because living condition, customs and tradition and social development of the Mool Vasis or the local residents have been negatively impacted since 1932 because of the migration, both pre and post migration of people from other states to Jharkhand and Bihar, and because it hampered the way they practiced their culture, the way they held their land. Since 1932, it was much more impacted in that year. This is according to the cabinet. And the scheduled tribes and Mool Vasis has their percentage has steadily come down. By the 1941 census, they could cite this evidence. Okay, for that only they put the 1932 date as cutoff. Now, what are the benefits the locals will get? The locals will receive certain rights, benefits and preferential treatment over their land. So they will be treated preferably if we compare them to the non-locals or people who are not able to show land records that they were there before 1932 or in 1932, or Gram Sabha doesn't identify them. In their stake in local development of rivers, lakes and fisheries, in their local traditional and cultural and commercial enterprises also they will be treated preferably. In their rights over agricultural indebtedness or availing agricultural loans, and maintenance and protection of their land records for their social security, even in the cases of employment, both private and public sector, and for trade and commerce in the state. Now, another bill has been sent in which 77% of the reservation is touted. That will not be discussed over here. We will just talk about the policies of domicile. If it calls for us to get you updated on that as well, we will do that. Sons of the soil theory. Here it is very important to understand this. Now, this theory means a state specifically belongs to the native group only and no outsiders are allowed, who are the sons of the soil or local residents. Okay, and this emotion gets a lot of propellants when economic backwardness is there, because xenophobia arises. If somebody else comes from a different state and take the jobs in the original state, then what happens? People start getting xenophobic that they are taking away our jobs. And this is not just for India, omnipresent it is. We are seeing so much violence happening in different countries such as US against Indians. There was a woman who said, wherever I see you Indians everywhere. So you see that happening everywhere. When it happens, then unemployment is one of the reasons. Lack of opportunities and not being skilled enough is another reason when unemployment occurs. So you see, all this gives rise to such regionalism. Positives are there as well as negatives. Let's talk about positives of the sons of the soil theory. It can give balanced regional development as concerns. If every state dedicates itself to the local population, it might happen that region, because of the aspirations for them to grow, the region also develops. Development of spirit of competitive federalism. Now, it might happen as a positive that every state starts giving, you can say, more dedication towards local natives, and accordingly, if they do so, every region has native population, then what happens? They might not go to other states for jobs and might want to contribute in their state only. Promoting the democratic culture, because if local residents' needs, necessities and concerns are reflecting in the policies, it will be seen that yes, democracy is there, the state is listening to its residents. It provides an outlet to diverse discourse and concerns of society. Whenever such debates will occur, definitely more historical underpinnings will be taken out and more debate will be there. And whenever we are debating, we are providing more clarity to policy. Okay, moving ahead to the negatives. It is threat to unity. Now it will give rise to regionalism and parochialism. When that happens, the integrity of a nation gets hurt. Whenever anything in extreme happens, that is going to happen for India. It will undermine national demands, because if we are just catering to the needs of local population, India as a whole might not be able to develop. Another thing, regionalism creates hurdle in international diplomacy. Sometimes it can happen, a state is pivotal in achieving an agreement with any any other country. But if that state, citing the example of their local residents being undermined, is not participating in the process, it will also harm the international diplomacy. It restricts freedom of movement and profession. If a person wants to engage in any other state apart from their own state, they might not be able to do so because of the preferential treatment being given to the local residents, and this goes against Article 19, restricts freedom of movement and profession, and it's generally against the ethos, culture and constitutional ideals. All right, moving ahead to our question. The first Janjatiya Gaurav Divas was celebrated on. There is a myriad of options to choose from, 4 options. Tell me in the comment segment what is the correct answer. So let me take the names of those who have answered my last question correctly. Shri has answered it correctly. D was the correct answer. Kusum, Vinay, Ranjit Kumar, Genius Fact Star, Rahul Yadav, Shobhit, Jyoti, Samina, Renuka, Anuj, FG Mari, and then we have Vipin, also Arsalan, then Nikita, Anuj, also Gautam, Faizu, Rehan, then we have Utkarsh, Mohammed Kaif, Tapal, then we have Vandana, Sabri, Divyanshi, Pallavi, Sky, Anayas, then we have Ashad, Sonam, Shubh, Umang, Nishant, also Sunidhi, Rupal and Nisha, Nancy, Nutan, also we have Aditya, Shivangi, Tushita and Anayas. They have answered my 2 questions. Very well done. So thank you so much. Another one. Drishti has also answered 2 questions. Thank you so much. I asked 1 question in the midst of the segment and you guys have answered it correctly. Saurav has done it again. Thank you so much for answering my questions. Answer this as well. I will take your names in the next segment. Stay updated.